Hello, this is Sal. Today's video will be configuring AAA authentication. The objective of this lab will be as follows. First, we'll configure a local user account on router 1 and configure authentication on the console and VTY lines using local AAA. Then we will verify local AAA authentication from the router 1 console and the PCA client. After that, I will configure server-based AAA authentication using Tacacs, and then verify server-based AAA authentication from the PCB client. After that, I will configure server-based AAA authentication using Radius, and then verify server-based AAA authentication from the PCC client. So on the description of this lab, you will find two files, one for the packet tracer source files and a document to walk you through the lab step by step until you finally will be able to verify the configurations you did during this lab. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and recommend it to your friends, and share it and give me the thumb up. And please let me know if you have any suggestions, comments, or questions. I will gladly answer you back. Here in the network topology shows routers, router 1, router 2, and router 3. Currently, all administrative security is based on knowledge of the enabled secret password. Our lab for today is to configure and test local and server-based AAA solutions. We will create a local user account and configure local AAA on router 1 to test the console and VTY logins. Here the user account on router 1 would be admin1 and the password is admin1. Then I will configure router 2 to support server-based authentication using the Tacacs protocol. The Tacacs server has been pre-configured with the following. As for the client is router 2 using the keyword Tacacs. The user account is admin2 and password admin2. Finally, I will configure router 3 to support server-based authentication using Radius protocol. The Radius server has been pre-configured with the following. As for the client, which is router 3, using the keyword Radius, and the user account admin3 and password of admin3. The routers has been pre-configured with the following. As for enable secret password on all the three routers is Cisco, and the routing protocol EIGRP also has been pre-configured. Next, I will configure local AAA authentication on router 1. I will configure a local user, as I said, name on router 1. I will configure a username admin1 with a secret password of admin1. So on router 1, enable, as I said, the enable password, secret password on all routers is Cisco. So I'm typing Cisco, enter. Configure terminal, the username of admin1 on router 1 and the secret password of admin1. Next, I will configure a local AAA authentication for console access on router 1. I will enable AAA on router 1 and configure AAA authentication for the console login to use a local database. So back to router 1. So the command goes like this. AAA, new model, enter, AAA authentication. For the login, the default login is to use local. So how to read this? AAA authentication for the login, the default is using local. Next, I will configure the line console to use the defined AAA authentication method. I will enable AAA on router 1 and configure AAA authentication for the console login to use the default method list. So back to our friend here, router 1, for line console 0, login authentication, use the default. Next, I will verify the AAA authentication method on router 1. So back to router 1 here, just type in end and exit here. So the username, we configured it of admin1 and the password of admin1. And now for the secret password for login for the enable, which is configured on all three routers as Cisco, I typed Cisco. Next, I will configure local AAA authentication for VTY lines on router 1. First, I will configure domain name and crypto key for user with SSH. I will use ccnasecurity.com as a domain name on router 1. And then I will create an RSA crypto key using 1024-bit. The size of the key is 1024-bit. So back to router 1. Configure terminal, the domain name, IP domain name, ccnasecurity.com. Crypto key, generate RSA, the size is 1024-bit, and then enter. Next, I will configure a named list, a AAA authentication method for the VTY lines on router 1. I will configure a named list called all caps SSH-login to authenticate logins using local AAA. So on router 1, the command goes like this: AAA authentication for login is named SSH-login and local. Next, I will configure the VTY lines to use the defined AAA authentication method. I will configure the VTY lines to use the named AAA method and only allow SSH for remote access. So on router 1, line VTY, we will use 5 lines from 0 to 4. For login authentication, use the named one which we configured, SSH-login, all caps, enter, and use only SSH. For remote access, transport input is SSH. Now I will verify the AAA authentication method. I will verify the SSH configuration to router 1 from the command prompt on PCA. Here, go to desktop, command prompt, and type the command as follows: SSH space dash link and admin 1 to the router of 172.16.10.1. The password of admin 1, I typed admin 1 and enable, and the secret password for enable access is Cisco on all routers. So it was successful. Next, I will configure server-based AAA authentication using Tacacs on router 2. I will configure a backup local database entry called admin2 just for backup purposes. The local username would be, in this example, admin2 with the secret password of admin2. So here on router 2, enable the password of Cisco, configure terminal, and username of admin2 and secret password of admin2. First, let's verify the Tacacs server configuration. I will here click on the server, and on the service tab, first let me go to the configuration for IP, and then go to services tab, and then click on AAA here. And as you can see, we have the client name of router 2, the IP address, and the key of Tacacs. Here, as for the user, admin2, admin2. Next, I will configure the Tacacs server specifics on router 2. I will configure, we have the configuration already configured on the server. Now we need to configure on the router 2. I will configure the AAA Tacacs server IP address and secret key on router 2, just the same what was configured on the server. But first, let's notice this, that the command tacacs-server host and tacacs-key are deprecated. Currently, Packet Tracer does not support the new command Tacacs server. So we are stuck with the old command. Here, go back. On router 2, the command goes like this, Tacacs server for the host, our host in this example on this IP address of 172.16.20.2, and the Tacacs server key, which it should be the same as what is configured on the server of Tacacs. Tacacs, the same as this key here. We will configure the same on the server and then hit enter. Next, I will configure AAA login authentication for console access on router 2. I will enable AAA on router 2 and configure all logins to authenticate using AAA Tacacs server. And if it's not available, then use the local database. So going back to our guy here, router 2, the command goes like this, AAA new model, enter, AAA for authentication, login, use the default. The default in this case, we will use a group of Tacacs, and if this is not available, then to go use the local configuration on the local database, and then hit enter. So we have two options for a AAA authentication login. The default is to use the group Tacacs. If this is not available, then use local. Hit enter. Next, I will configure the line console to use the defined AAA authentication method. I will configure AAA authentication for console login to use the default AAA authentication method. So, back onto router 2, line console 0 for login authentication to use the default. Let's verify the AAA authentication method. I will verify that the user exec login using AAA Tacacs server. I will exit and then log in back. End here and then exit. Username is admin2. Password of admin2. And the router for enable of Cisco. And we are in. Next. Now we are done with router 2. We did router 1, router 2, now router 3. I will configure server-based AAA authentication using Radius on router 3. First, I will configure a backup local database entry called admin on router 3. For backup purposes, I will configure a local username of admin3 and a secret password of admin3. So on router 3, enable the enable password of Cisco on all three routers, and the user, configure terminal, user name of admin 3, and the secret of admin 3. Next, I will verify that the Radius server configuration by clicking on the Radius server. On the Service tab, here also again the IP configuration as follows. On the Services tab here, click on AAA. Notice that there is a network configuration entry for router 3 and a user setup entry for admin 3, router 3, admin 3, and the key here is Radius. Now I will configure the Radius server specifics on router 3. What we have here on the server, this is Radius server, we want to do the configuration on router 3. I will configure the AAA Radius server IP address and secret key on router 3. And another note here, we have that the command radius-host and radius-server key are deprecated, these two commands. Currently, Packet Tracer does not support the new command radius server, the command without the dash, but we are stuck for now with the old commands. So on router 3, the command goes like this: radius server, the host, our host for the Radius server on this IP address of 172.16.30.2. 172.16.30.2, and the Radius server key, it should be the same as configured on the Radius server, the same as on the router of Radius. Enter. Next, I will configure a AAA login authentication for console on router 3. I will enable AAA on router 3 and configure all logins to authenticate using the AAA Radius server. If it's not available, then use the local database. So on router 3, the command goes like this: AAA new model, AAA for authentication, login authentication, use the default. This default is use the group radius. If your radius is not available, then to use the local. This is how to read this command. For a AAA authentication login, the default is to take it as this sequence, to use a group radius. If not available, then to use local. Next, I will configure the line console to use the defined AAA authentication method. I will configure a AAA authentication for console login to use the default AAA authentication here on router 3. Line console 0 login authentication, use the default, and this is how the command goes. Now I will verify that the AAA authentication method, I will verify the user exact login using AAA radius. So from here we'll click exit. So the username here is admin3, password of admin3, waiting on it. And enable, and the enable password of Cisco. Thank you for watching. This lab was very easy. I hope you learned something from this lab. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends, your classmates, and give me the thumb up. If you have any suggestions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I will gladly answer you back as soon as I can. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon in my next video. Have a nice day.